See, in this chart we do. We got Liberty, the sign of Liberty at 17 degrees in Aquarius. This is G. You're watching Allastrology. We're talking about the June new moon. It's loaded. It's loaded. There is a part 1 to this video, which doesn't do the deep dive as far as like looking at a chart, but it gives you a little bit of the, I guess maybe a backstory, because this is a loaded new moon in June. And I've got the dates here, so let's just start off. Let's just get into it and find the... So this is it, June new moon, June 6th, 2024. And if you understand the power of the new moons, the energy that's present, and if you understand how to use it in your life and how to work with energy, then you know that we pay attention to the time of new moons, because the 8 typically the 8 to 12 hours before the new moon time are the hours of power. So there it is, 7:37 a.m. 7:37 a.m. June 6th, new moon in Gemini. New moon in Gemini. So for those of you out there who have Venus as your greater benefic in your chart, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will include the link below to a video that explains how to find the greater benefic in your chart. It's either Venus or Jupiter. All right. Even though they call Venus the lesser benefic, but if Jupiter's not your benefic, your greater benefic, then it's going to be Venus. So I'll include the video below for you to go watch that and figure that out. If you got any questions, you can comment to me and ask me. This new moon has Venus part of this new moon. And that's what makes this a big deal. Okay. So it's a June 6th Gemini energy. Venus is there in Gemini, and so is RIGEL. And that is what the part 1 to this video was about. You would have seen that on there. And it gives the history and the information and the meaning of RIGEL. It talks about RIGEL in Gemini. It talks about Venus in Gemini. Because the new moon, this all happens together. It all happens together. We got the sun and the moon and Venus and RIGEL together in Gemini energy. And they're all conjunct for this new moon of June. Let's back the chart up a little bit so you can see what I got drawn here. Air. Gemini is an air sign. Now, there's a lot in Gemini. There's this huge stellium. The degrees are 16 degrees. That's where the new moon is at. How do you know what a new moon is? Because it's when the sun and the moon are together. Sun and the moon, 16 degrees, and Venus, 16 degrees. And look, RIGEL, 17 degrees. You see that? RIGEL sitting there at 17. So it is part of this new moon. It's part of it. Moon, sun, Venus, and RIGEL. Fun fact, on these chart systems that I use, this particular one shows the fixed stars just as like a star, right? Because there's not a symbol. There's so many fixed stars in the system. So they just put a star and they give you like the first 3 letters of the fixed star that you're looking at, right? Like this is Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse, whatever you want to call it. This is Sirius, S-I-R. This is RIGEL, R-I-G. This is Aldebaran, A-L-D. You follow? So the symbol of the star, you think, well, it's a star. Yeah, but it's not just any old star. Keep this in mind. If you start looking up some of the ancient symbology here, when a star is depicted with 8 points, that represents feminine energy. I didn't just make that up. A star with 8 points represents feminine energy. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Feminine energy. Just wanted to bring that to your awareness. When there's teaching, astrology teachings, they often talk about this energy, They refer to Mercury as being masculine, which makes no damn sense. It's the Gemini twins. These slow, fixed stars. See the symbology of the sign, right? Feminine energy. These slow, fixed stars. With that strong feminine energy and the duality of this sign, sure, there's masculine energy. But because of the rise of the matriarch, right? Because of the patriarchal civilizations that we live in, which let me put it like this: the patriarchal society is extreme, plain and simple. It's imbalanced, it's extreme. Matriarchal is balanced. So we're striving for the balance. We're striving for a matriarchal society. It doesn't mean masculine energy is thrown to the curb. Not at all. It means equality. You follow? Equality. And of course, women not only have a voice, but they're listened to, they're respected, they're revered in that society. Now, that's Sedna right there. Yep. So that's feminine energy. Sedna's feminine. She's got a lot of history. Sedna is a slower mover. She's more ancient than Pluto. More ancient than Pluto. How the hell's that possible? Right? And well, especially when the argument about, well, it's feminine energy starts turning some heads at that point. Jupiter, also in Gemini. Sedna at 0, Jupiter at 2. Mercury was recently conjunct Jupiter at this new moon, June 6th. Sun and Moon and Venus at 16, RIGEL at 17. So understanding all the history about RIGEL, the meanings, the deep meanings, the behind the scenes meanings of RIGEL is important. But a short version of it is power and influence by speech and knowledge and information. RIGEL can bestow great success on somebody. And there's a warning with RIGEL not to abuse that power, to have integrity and ethics. And boy, do we need integrity and ethics and accountability in Gemini energy with RIGEL. It says that when people understand this, like when they see that they've got power with their spoken word or with the kind of content they're putting out or whatever's in the news, right? News. Why is G talking about news? Because Mercury is the ruler. Mercury is the ruler of this new moon because Mercury rules Gemini. So the duality with Gemini energy is the contrast. It's the contrast. It's can be, you can word it as the left and the right, the ups and the downs, the sweet and the salty, the hot and the cold, the detached, the I can talk about something and not really care. It's just making small chat and small conversation, or even conversations about, that can be kind of gossipy and it could even be hurtful. And these are some negative ways. And I'm pointing this out because I just got an alert talking about something in the news, talking about an individual that set themselves on fire outside of a courtroom. Yeah, in the United States, in New York, an individual doused themselves with an accelerant and lit themselves on fire. And guess what they had in their hands right before they lit themselves on fire? They had a lot of pamphlets. All I know is they threw them up in the air. They came down to the ground. They were all a bunch of different colors. And as the authorities looked through the stuff to figure out who the person was and what the hell was this about, it looked like it was a bunch of conspiracy theory type of stuff. And so this individual, obviously sick, something wrong with their mind, Gemini, Mercury, something wrong with their mind. And Mercury squares Virgo. Gemini squares Virgo. So we think of health and well-being when we talk about Virgo energy, and we see the connection of when our mind is not right, how it affects our well-being and our actions, how food does that as well, how food can affect our mind, but how our thoughts and the thoughts that we keep and our ability to be strategic, intellectual surgeons with information. Information's everywhere. It can be hurtful. It can be mean. It can be cruel. It can be there to bend and manipulate. It can feel like it's driving you crazy, but at the end of the day, you have the power to turn that shit off. You have the power to unsubscribe. You have the power to don't go there. But not everybody has maybe the mental skills or the ability to discern and to see, like the awareness to see, oh my God, this, when I pay attention to this sort of thing, it really does me damage emotionally and mentally. Like I feel ill, right? And understanding to step back and to get away from something. Don't get too deep into something because the effect, Gemini energy, the effect on our health and our well-being with Gemini, with the news, with the information, and what we talk about and the thoughts we keep, what you allow your mind to have access to. Your mind, literally, there's so much power there. And that's part of this new moon is understanding the power of your thought, the power of your mind. For those of you who grew up like I did, reading the Bible, whether it was for Sunday school or you went to a private school where that was part of the curriculum, especially for those of you who would read the words of Jesus, right? And the teaching, the parable of the garden of your mind, and making and knowing and being responsible for weeding your own garden. If you don't weed it, it will become weeds and all weeds. And you're responsible to do that. And this is the same idea, the same thinking, the same way. It is the power of that mind. Information, Gemini, teaching, writing, it's the scribe, it's the news. It's learning. It's learning. It's taking information in and sharing it back out again. So Mercury is super strong. Venus and Mercury are siblings. And with the stellium comes our values. What do we value? Who do we value? Choices and options. Remember learning? Mercury loves learning. Well, when Venus is in Mercury, when Venus is in Gemini, when Jupiter is also in Gemini, there's an increase of desire for knowledge and information. There will be an increase. What else is Gemini? Think about all the fact or crap and how to discern, how to look for credible sources, how to recognize credible sources of news and information, how to pinpoint when people are just sharing garbage, when people are trying to persuade you to their and for their benefit. Be aware. Gemini energy has a tendency to chit chat because I just need to be busy. My mind is busy. I can't sit for a quiet moment. If there's a quiet moment, I right away got to grab my phone and look at it and be like, oh my God, so-and-so's looking at their phone. I got to be looking at my phone. I was watching that video and they were doing the news. They were just showing. There was just a headline and there was just a camera showing as the police, it was before the EMT, before the paramedics and the EMT had got the flames, right? They were waiting to make sure the flames were out on the body because the person had used an accelerant and it was hot and smoking, and trying to keep themselves safe as they were trying to then hurry and get this person because they were still alive. There was still a heartbeat. But if you backed up from the picture and looked closely, you're backing up, but yet paying attention, looking closely. There was one person crying. There was one person upset. And do you know how many people I saw in the comments making fun of that person that was upset? Not because they were upset, because of what they were wearing. They were dressed like a freaking cat. And I thought that's the most human person in there. Everybody else had their phones. They were filming a person on fire. How many people almost kind of found like that was either entertaining or they knew, oh my God, I can get clicks and cash, right? People will click to see this. I'm Johnny on the spot. I got the close up. I can get this. I can be the first to post this on my whatever account. And it was just freaky. I know everyone responds differently to crazy, insane events you never think you're ever going to witness. But here she was, clearly upset. Quite possibly she didn't even know the person. Very possibly, because I can't imagine how tragic. I can't imagine. And she was visibly upset over it. And people were making fun of her, talking about the human who had a tail. And they had just witnessed some horribly tragic shit. Horribly tragic shit. Like the person was breathing and still alive, but literally completely crisp. I mean, I don't even know what other word to use, and that's not to be mean. But when you step back from it and your awareness of, okay, look at what's going on and look at how people are responding. And then look at how people who are then watching that news are responding to the people who are present, and how people were tearing each other apart sometimes. Not everybody. Not everybody. There was a lot of different commentaries about it. But this is all Gemini stuff. My opinion and my thoughts. A lot of gossipy energy for the sake of being busy. So ready and willing to press that damn share button. So ready and willing to pull up that camera and to just videotape it. And like, do you understand the tragedy that you're experiencing, that you're witnessing? Do you, yeah. I'm thinking, why are all these people filming this? Like, what is that going to do? Maybe they were reporters. I don't think so. There were already reporters on scene who had like camera crews, like people who actually, because they were right near the trial. So like that was already a thing. But I mean, who knows? I could be completely wrong. Maybe they were all news people. Mercury, Gemini energy. Maybe they were all news people. They could have been, right? Maybe all I know is the awareness and the contradictory perception, the duality of, I got to stay in touch with people. I want to share with people. But at the same time, where the F is the love and the understanding and the compassion? Like, are we that freaking detached? And I have to say, I think so. What does this have to do with Rigel? Well, there's a lot of power with Rigel. And Rigel says, I will give you power. You have the ability to be Johnny on the spot, to just be in the right place at the right time. What are you going to do with it? And then Venus is here, and this is a new moon. So it's all about, what are we starting? What are we beginning? New moon intentions. These are the days, the hours of the metaphysicians. People who are focusing on Gemini energy, focusing on where's the 16 degrees in their chart. What house number is the 16 degrees in their chart? Knowing that point is that area of their life where there's a new beginning. And if they have any planets, for sure a new cycle is starting. Remember, it's a new moon. So moon, the public, people, family, feminine energy, women. So there's a lot of strong feminine energy present because Venus is here and her sibling, who is a twin, but who is very strong and very prominent with feminine energy. Very strong. Information and the values. Our mind. Our ability to be clear and concise, to slow down before we share and send. But remember, Rigel isn't just about the sharing of the information. Some of those big key words about the definition and the meaning is fame and success and business. We think of the merchants. Gemini energy can be that youth energy, young, can be your coworkers, your classmates, your next door neighbors, the markets in the town that you live in, and the housing market, the real estate market. It's a new beginning. Venus is part of this. And I pray there will be something, anything that helps to control, maybe controls the wrong word, but helps to add some balance in the extreme cost of housing. This Rigel and this Venus, my money and my values, my desire, who and what I desire. Strong energy, strong desires, desire for learning, desire for options and choices. News is so big. We think of politics and politicians. This 16 degree, the orb we're going to set is going to be pretty large. We're going to go all the way to like 19 degrees. We've got Aldebaran at 10. You see Aldebaran there at 10 degrees? Yeah. So it is pretty large, and I'm thinking I think it makes sense to go because of Jupiter and Gemini. I think we could take the degrees, like the orb in your chart, to look between 10 and, well, what the hell, we'll just say 20 degrees because we've got something at 20, even 21, 22 degrees, even for that matter then. Yeah, there's so much here. And the moon moves fast, Mercury moves fast. So this tells us that at the very beginning of June, very beginning, definitely June 3rd, June 4th, June 5th, June 6th, June 7th, there's definitely going to be big things in terms of choices and options, and maybe having to make decisions. Things that are in the news. We think of homes and housing and women's and just security, emotional security. But housing, I keep hearing housing. So whether you live in an apartment, whether you want to live in an apartment, find a place to live, interest rates, possibly something happening there, because we got Jupiter in Gemini, Sedna's here. There's so freaking much in the first 20 degrees of Gemini. So much here, talking, conversations, and learning. Mercury is hungry for the knowledge. It loves to share, and it has a tendency to move too darn fast. So it has to slow down. It trips over its own self because it moves too fast. It says, did I do that? And it's like, yeah, you did. You did. You made that bed. Now you got to sleep in it. If you had just slowed down and did a little bit deeper research and looked for a little bit more credible sources, multiple credible sources. This is that test. And then Rigel will bring that success. This is a new moon of the mind. The ability to use your mind and the power of setting intentions for this area of your life in your chart, wherever 10 to 20 degrees is. Look in your chart and find out what house that falls in. What house does that Gemini energy between 10 to 20 degrees, where does that fall in your chart? To find out more information, in Aries, Chiron energy in Aries is now at 22 degrees with Hygeia. Hygeia is a health report card. Health of people, health of our body, health of our appearance, health of our head. Aries energy. It's fiery, so it can be about the war and soldiers. It's a health report card and wounds, the wounds of the body, wounds from surgery even, because we think Mars. And Mars is at 28, 29 critical degrees. So something will be occurring for certain. Something will be occurring as Mars nears the critical degree. But I've seen in the past, anytime, especially with Mars and Aries, the sign that it rules, once it hits 27, 28, it doesn't need to get to 29. It's strong enough and extreme enough, strong enough to create some kind of crazy stuff. So as far as a trine energy in this chart, look at the air. Because if you've got something in Gemini at those degrees, You're also looking for the same degrees in Libra and in Aquarius. You see, in this chart, we got Liberty, the sign of Liberty at 17 degrees in Aquarius. We also have Black Moon Lilith retrograding at 15 degrees here. We've got the South Node at 13. So it says there's a release of some sort because the South Node is part of this by degree. South Node is part of it along with Black Moon Lilith. It's partnerships, business partnerships. Because Venus is a huge part of this conjunct RIGEL, think the housing market, think banking, think real estate, think property values, think, well, we need an adjustment of some sort, and likely some sort of a decision and choice that has to be made. But if you have objects there, it might even be a house cusp line. That counts. That absolutely counts. All right, let's figure this out because it's Venus, money and desires, money in the bank, conjunct RIGEL, success. Thank you for your time. I'll see you in the next one. Remember, I always appreciate your time. Till then, bye-bye.